Hey, what is up? What is up, YouTube gaming family? It is IK right here. I'm back at it with another video for y'all today. Playing some Fight Night Champion Simulations. Shout out to Boxing Fight Simulations. Go give that guy a subscribe. He's a good YouTuber. I like watching him a lot. Got some Bernard Hopkins versus Felix Tito Trinidad. Great, great classical, iconic fight, and hopefully this video can be, a good potential rematch per se to, put that into the boxing fans that want to watch this. So, all right, I'm gonna have like a little good, pep talk to talk about my experience, working with Amazon, and wanted to give you guys my thoughts on that particular matter. If you guys should pursue with going to working with Amazon. So yeah, let's get right into it, man. I got a pretty good video to talk about everything, and I'll give you guys my whole take on this. So before I do that, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and yeah, let's get right into it. So yeah, let's get right into it, man. I have a pretty good breakdown to give my thoughts about Amazon. And, for someone that has worked for Amazon for the better yet of, I want to say maybe, it would have been 2 years, but I had basically stayed with them for at least a year and a half, and I ended up having to leave because I moved from Florida back up to New York. So, I pretty much just stopped, having to work for them. So, yeah, pretty much my whole take on this is that Amazon is a pretty weird company in terms of how they treat their employees. I think this company has a really good, bad track record for how they treat their employees in terms of poor managers, really bad team based hiring where when they hire people, they don't even interview you. I think Amazon is a really dumb company when they do that. And granted, as somebody that was a hard worker and I showed up to work almost every day, I've never seen a company like Amazon where people just go out of like their way being very disingenuous and very disrespectful on the job. And I think Amazon, they don't really care because it's more like every single peak season or any busy season throughout throughout the year for Amazon, they usually go out of it their way hiring people that are just gonna come in for like a quick paycheck, and then they just get those people out of there. So personally, with me, I don't find it to be really effective. I find it to be very disingenuous and disrespectful to people that have put their hard-earned, focus into the company, and people that actually want to, I should say, like actually want to commit themselves to being better for the company, where hard workers should be overpopulated in the company, and the company should have like a really good, chemistry in terms of hiring good employees on the job. But sadly, the problem with this company is that this company does a really bad job with hiring dog shit, individuals. And, excuse my French for bad language, but my whole, like, pretty much like my whole dispute up against Amazon is that this company has done a lot of bad, practices in terms of just bringing in, people that don't care to work. Therefore, it makes a really shitty working population where people that actually want to do what they want to do to be successful, they can't get there because one, there's a lot of favoritism, two, there's a lot of stupid employees that go out of their way to be ignorant, and then they end up either getting themselves hurt on the job, or people end up doing something stupid on the job where they probably end up fighting somebody. And I think the shitty management, population out of Amazon is actually terrible. I don't know if that's common within everywhere, but it's just like Amazon just basically proves itself to be a very bad company where they're not caring about. Oh wait, hold on. Yep. Yep. Sorry about that. Yeah, Amazon is not caring about having to care for their employees, and the employees that are having to actually work, hard to do their job. They're not incentivizing people to stay with the company because they're basically pushing a really crappy working working teamwork based chemistry where they're just bringing in anybody to come in. And it's like, if you're basically, if you're just coming in for a paycheck, then that's what Amazon will do. Amazon will give you the opportunity to work, but but your possibilities of actually even trying to stay without the company is going to be little to none. And sadly, that's what Amazon is about. Amazon is a really crappy company that does not focus on keeping the employee to be hired, and therefore, oh wait, I'm sorry. Therefore, you bring a really poor population of workers that are not even incentivized of wanting to actually work for the company, and then you have like your really dumb degenerate pieces of shit that go out of their way being, basically asinine, pieces of crap. So I mean, that's just how I see it. Like, granted, for me, like, for those of you that that want to know how I started out in the ship dock. I was a warehouse, worker, employee per se, and pretty much, just to make things clear, there are multiple departments within any Amazon. Basically within every Amazon fulfillment center location. For what I did is that I worked as a warehouse ship dock employee, and there's a department called ship dock where ship dock is basically you just get packages to load onto. Well, I mean, like, it's basically like a distribution part of getting the packages and processing them out for delivery to go to the next terminal. So basically, Amazon, ship dock department is the last resort where you get your packages to be sent out. But what happens is that this is like the last step of like getting everything to be process of having your packages to be delivered to you. But there are plenty of other departments such as like the stowing department, the slam department. There's the pick like a picking department. There's other departments like the packing department where people do pack. I think there's two departments for it. It's called pack singles, and then there's another one. I think it's called pack. I forgot what the other packing department is, but basically, like, there, like, there's like a whole plethora of different, yeah, of different departments. And how Amazon operates is that every department is designated for where your assignment is based on the I guess like the business need. And how it works is that when you get hired, you will most likely be assigned to a department that management will send you to. So I'm not too sure how it works with every Amazon. I'm not going to disclose like where I worked at my Amazon, but I worked down in Florida, and there are several locations like the one at TPA1 in Ruskin, Florida. There's a one out in Miami, Orlando, Tampa within Temple Terrace down in Tampa. There's a place down there. So I mean, there's like a whole plethora of places down in Amazon within the Florida location. I think there's one in Panama City. Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of them. Like, Mayaca City. I mean, like, I would definitely say like the best site per se for those of you that are working down in the Florida area. TPA one is from what I hear is the best site, but I'm not gonna disclose where I particularly worked at. But what I will say is the good benefit for working for Amazon is that um, the like overall the job is very easy. You don't have to deal with too many bad people. Well, I mean, like, not to say that the bad people don't really suck. No, that the people do suck. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, depending on where you go, within your department, you're gonna deal with like a lot of shitty people. So if you do your job and you just do what you have to do, then your life will be golden. I will just say that, as a heads up for anybody that's having to work for Amazon, management is very, how should I say, very authoritarian to tell you that you have to make sure that you do your job. And the biggest issue with Amazon is that this company does a lot of productivity spying on you. And if you ever go out of like your way having to work for any department that's having you bust your ass for X amount of work that's not worth the amount of pay, depending on what state that you reside in, and in the United States, um, do not overwork yourself. Go to work and focus on getting your job done, but don't take any shit from any crappy, upper management assholes, that I like to basically just, make it simple and just say that, the job is not a company that focuses on keeping employees. Amazon will treat you like a number, but productivity is the number one thing. If you come to work and you do your job, you will get done pretty quick with your job. I will say Amazon, for the most part, they do 10-hour shifts depending on where you work at. Other site locations, depending on where you work at nationwide in the US, you might work 12-hour shifts depending on what the schedules are. I mean, personally, with me, if you guys want to ask me, I like doing 10-hour shifts, as I had made a previous video talking like about that. If I hadn't, then I'll probably just go ahead and probably make another video for it. But yeah, doing 10-hour shifts are really good. I worked for 4 days doing 10-hour shift work days. I worked from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it was a pretty good job. I really had a lot of fun, working specifically in the ship dock, because ship dock is a very. Oh wait, hold on. Like, I gotta pause. All right, I'm back. So yeah, basically working in the ship dock was a really good, fun department, because the good thing about ship dock is that you didn't have to worry anything about, crappy, productivity quotas that you had to meet. The one thing that I will say is that if you're doing a position within the ship dock, which ship dock has like a whole bunch of positions. One like basically one position for a station that you do is like regular scanning, where boxes will come down through like a slide that will bring boxes down to you, and then all you have to do is basically scan the boxes through a computer reader, where like basically the whole thing about those things are not purely accurate. So like you kind of have to be a little bit careful when you scan them. I personally like using like a handheld scanner gun, but management within my particular department that I had used to work with in the past, they didn't want you doing that unless there wasn't that many people coming in on the job, because people would have to use it to become a water spider or to do SAM, which is basically that's a shipment automatic. Well, no, I don't think that's what it stands. Yeah, that's what it stands for. Basically, SAM is basically a position within the ship dock where you have to go out on your gun and find a piece of freight, whether it's a pallet where you have to get a pallet jack and get the item to scan it, and then you have to bring it to a loading door, which is a trailer door that is to be loaded into the door. So you are going to be doing a lot of walking where you have to find that freight, and you have to basically like go out of like your way of finding either a pallet or a cart depending on what the gun, like on your scanner gun, tells you. So it's basically a straightforward thing, but the problem is that you have to basically run all throughout the whole department, like department building where your freight could be. And Lord knows wherever your freight is, you might have a trouble not even knowing where that freight is actually located at. So you have to basically struggle trying to find that freight, and if you do find it, you still have to load it, on time, because there is a particular time limit where, like, if you're not having to get the piece of freight, well, it's not more so like that, but based off of your productivity, like, management always likes to be really crazy with that, as if that they're spying on you like every single day on productivity. You have to make sure that you get the freight on time to scan it, bring it to a door, but then you have to keep moving. You got to like keep going like super duper fast. Like, basically you have to like basically do what people do as like a forklift driver, where I'll probably make like a video talking about XPO Logistics and give you my take on that company, because I don't I don't mind talking about jobs that I worked at, but I'm obviously going to just give you a good general consensus of how I see of the company, because I do appreciate some jobs that I had particularly worked at, but I'm not going to like crap on every single job. If a job is bad and I'm going to give a good constructive criticism, I'm going to do it. So yeah, for Amazon, specifically for that position called Sam, that position wasn't too bad, but like if you ever get assigned to do a job like that, I would very well say for anybody that's starting out, don't do that job. Like, you're gonna be sweating like your balls off, and you're gonna be definitely losing a lot of weight if you're gonna be walking all throughout the building, which I've gotten at least like a good like 5 to 6 thousand steps, doing Sam, if not probably close to 10,000. So your cardio is definitely gonna be on point. Another thing that you would be doing within the ship docks specifically, there's other positions, that being transship. Transship is a pretty good that's a pretty good position, but you just have to be consistent with it. Um, Transship is basically totes that are coming down from the stowing. Well, no, from the picking department. And what the picking department does is that those people get the items that are coming in through the stowing. Yeah, that's coming from the stowing department, where people just load up items into certain areas where, don't you know, like, if you guys see like those, AI drone, like, robots, or basically let the robot, basically, I forgot, like, what they're called. Like, I think they're called pods, but those robotic pods are going to pick up at the towered, towered, I guess, like, freight that's going to be sitting inside those pods. And the pickers go out of their way to get that freight, to load that, to load it into a tote. So therefore, when you're picking, you're basically just following the directions on your screen to load up the like the freight from your picking pod into the tote. That's telling you from the computer screen to just load into the pod alone. Well, basically the tote. So the loading totes that are coming down the conveyor belt line from the picking department, that goes straight down to transship, where your job as a transship scanner is that all you do is just scan the basically you scan the tote, and you have to basically look at the code of like what route that it's going to. So, like, certain routes will tell you, like, for example, if you're loading at a Florida location down in Ruskin, over at the TPA1 location, there's going to be multiple different codes, that being TPA4, or I believe MIA3. There's also, I want to say, MCO1. That's like, those codes, or those acronym codes. Those are codes for different Amazon sites. So you'll be loading up freight that's going to go to those sites, and you have to just make sure that all the totes are being loaded up to the correct spot, and you just have to make sure that everything is being organized for that particular route. Also, another thing that you have to watch out for, you have to watch out for some, I guess, incomplete totes that could be overloaded, where they could be stacked up too high. So, like, basically, when the totes are coming down through the conveyor belt on transship that are coming from the picking department, you have to make sure that the freight that's sitting inside the tote is not overloading, because throughout your shift, those totes are going to go past you, and then they're gonna go through a robotic, I guess like a picking machine, where basically what it does is that it picks up at the tote to load it onto the transship pallets, where there's like a robot that will do all the loading, where it's like personally with me, it's actually really good, and it's a beautiful, innovation. Oh wait, hold on, let me pause. All right, I'm back. So yeah, basically the robotic, I guess like loader, that's basically what I call it. It's basically like a robot that just takes, all the totes, and then they stack it up, on multiple different, like basically multiple different pallets, and that's basically what that robot does. It's like a robot that has like a crane like arm per se, but it grabs at the tote and it just loads it up onto like a pallet to keep all the pallets to be particularly loaded. I want to say up to 5 pallets. It's at least 6 pallets. Yeah, it's 6 pallets to be loaded up, and the totes are being loaded up 5 high, so it's a total of 30 totes being loaded up onto each pallet, which is really cool, and it's very interesting. The one thing is that you just have to make sure that there's no overloaded totes going past through the transship scanner per se. And what happens is that if there's a overloaded tote, it's not going to pass through the conveyor belt. So you just have to make sure that's not having to be overstacked, or how should I say, like basically like overloaded onto like a tote. And you just have to scan it to make sure that you put it onto like your pallet that you're loading. Because like the thing is that like the robot is not going to take that tote and try to fix anything out of the tote. Another thing is that the PA or the processing assistant will also monitor that too. So they will tell you from time to time that you just have to make sure that you're getting everything to be loaded up properly, and just make sure that you're scanning everything correctly. So, I mean, overall, transship is a really good position. I like it because it's like, one, the day goes by really quick when it's a busy day. But the downside to it is that if there's no work left, then they'll basically tell you to go back to the ship dock or go back to the board to get reassigned to a different assignment, which that's the one thing I don't like about Amazon. They have these like weird favoritis assignments that they give to people. And it's like, if you're not on that list of on that list of people that want to be at a position where you want to do a simple job that that you can do, but management is like, oh no, 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 don't worry, like unfortunately, like we can't really give that to you because this other guy that we know here, we're just going to give it to him every single time when he comes in. So it's like, it's already stupid as it is. Like, the one position I will say, if you're working ship dock, if you guys don't want to ever deal with having to scan items and having to be like basically monitored for productivity, I will definitely say do water spider. And there's also fluid loading. Fluid loading is actually pretty easy, but that is actually pretty, it's a little bit stingy, where management will try to tell you that you got to keep up with your loading with like the trailer. The only thing is just that make sure that whenever you're fluid loading, you're just working, like you're making sure that you're stacking up things effectively with like your boxes. Basically, fluid loading is like what you see in like certain businesses, like I guess XPO logistics, where if you have like a trailer that you have to load up by yourself, where you have like a whole bunch of box freight that needs to go inside like a 24-foot trailer, just think about that with like an actual 53-foot trailer. That's basically what you're doing. You're loading up boxes like all day until you have to go home, and therefore you just have to make sure that the boxes are being loaded up correctly, and nothing's having to be I guess like improperly stacked, and nothing causes any safety issues where the boxes just start falling down because it wasn't particularly to be how should I say particularly to be like loaded up properly. So yeah, wait, hold on, let me switch up this video because Tito knocked out Bernard Hopkins, so I got to do like a different video. Tito Trinidad, he got the KO Barriqua. All right, okay, hold on, I'm gonna pause, hold on. All right, I'm back. So yeah, basically the whole thing is just that fluid loading is a pretty good position. Another position that you can do is called it's called no reads. No reads is a really good position. I actually enjoyed doing that position. Um, what you do for that is that all you have to do is like the packages that come on the conveyor belt, where there's a department called the inducting department, where those people just get like a whole bunch of packages that are coming from the conveyor belt line, and those people have to just make sure that they're scanning consistently to go through the conveyor belt line to make sure that they're going to a how should I say, it's going to a designated pallet that's being loaded, or a cart where the how should I say, the inducting, process assistant unit out of that department makes sure that the packages are going to that correct I guess location spot. And the good thing about the inducting department is just that scanning let the packages through the conveyor line is very easy. You just have to make sure that you're having to make like your rate, effectively on time. But if you just scan, as fast as you can, but you're just making sure that you're staying consistent, because the problem with the rate, the rate quota for the inducting department is that you have to hit at least 1,600 units. I want to say per hour. I think it's 1,600 if I'm not to be mistaken, but I want to say it's at least 16 to 1,700. If you basically scan as many items as you can, which is very simple. All you have to do is just make sure when you're scanning, make sure that you're scanning at a proper position with your freight, and then make sure that the conveyor belt is getting the item as best as possible, but you're not having to like rush it, because sometimes your conveyor will freeze on you where the scanner off of your conveyor belt is not reading the package based off of how the infrared scanner is actually seeing that. So overall, the inducting department is pretty, it's a pretty chill, department station to do, but it's better than you scanning on the ship dock, where if you're just standing all day, you're having to scan to make sure that you're scanning everything to either a pallet or a cart, which that's the biggest problem, because I'm going to go back to that after I explain what the inducting department is good at doing. When you go over to the inducting department, there is a water spider position that you can do, where you can do water spider, but you have to make sure that you're closing out your stations effectively on time. Because what happens is that if you're not closing out your stations and the inducting department is not able to get any freight to be loaded onto any pallets or carts, then let the processing assistant, management, or the supervisors, whether it's like a area manager or operations manager, they will get on you for that. But if you just do your job, everything will be good to go. So it's not really difficult per se. It's just that you just have to be consistent. I think doing water spider over in the inducting department is actually pretty easy. So that's usually called flats. If you ever go over to flats, that's basically what it's called. Like, what you're doing is like you're basically monitoring all the basically the robotic oh shit, like, I'm so sorry. You're managing the AI or the robotic driven, I guess, like, stations that are being handled by conveyor belts to send packages to pallets and to carts. And then once you close them out, you just have to make sure that you load it to a door, and then you just go right back to your station. And it's it's actually pretty simple. All you have to do is for the one position called water spider, is that water spidering is just like closing down like a pallet, or making sure that this pallet is going to go to a designated door, or i.e. like a cart. So what you do is you have to make sure that you scan everything out completely, and then once you scan that out, you'll be able to kind of go out of like your way. Oh, like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, like, you'll be able to close everything out effectively, so you can move the packages, or the piece of freight that is either a pallet or cart that's filled with the packages to go to a designated door. If there's no door available, then you just have to dock it until there's a available door to be loaded into. That sometimes can be a problem because sometimes management does not always have doors to be ready for you. So therefore, they always get on you on like basically telling you like you have to make sure that you're loading the packet or you're loading your freight into like a door. And if you do that, then you'll be good to go. If you're ever water spidering, just make sure that if there's a door, just load it to that door, and don't be afraid to bring anything up to management if you're not able to load something into like a door. Always be first to tell management, hey, if there's not a door available, then dock it. Because sometimes management will try to get on you to say, hey, this is supposed to go to this door, but you didn't load it, blah, blah, blah. Because the reason why is simply because of the packages. Because if people are ordering off of Amazon to state that they have like a package that is needing to be delivered to them, let's just say it's a Prime, it's like a Prime membership package, and they ordered a package online where they're going to get their package within like, I don't know, let's just say 2 to 3 days. Hold on, let me pause. All right, I'm back. So yeah, back to what I was saying. If a customer off of Amazon gets a package, or they get a piece of freight that they're ordering online, that's supposed to come to their door within 2 to 3 days, and based off of the circumstances off of that package, if that package was not supposed to be loaded on time to that trailer that was supposed to leave, let's just say from Miami, Florida, to go up to Albany, New York, that means that package will then have to be delayed until the next day, and therefore it's going to go out late. Therefore, the customer is not going to get their package on time. So once that hits, the road through a let's just say a terminal delivery that's gonna go from Miami, Florida, to, let's just say, I'll probably say like, I don't know, Miami, Florida up to Tampa, Florida, and therefore it has to be delayed because somebody didn't load it on time. So you're gonna have to wait at least like an extra day or two for you to get your package. That then holds back the the delivery production of having that product to come to the door to the customer's house on time. So therefore you have to wait a lot more in order for you to get your product as a customer. So that's why management harps on you to make sure that whenever you are doing, let's just say, SAM, or you're doing water spider, make sure you are loading your freight on time. Because if you're not loading it to a door and that door is not giving you like, basically, if there's no room on a door and therefore you went to literally every single door that your scanner gun tells you to go to, then you have every right to dock it. Just make sure that you clarify with your management, because sometimes certain supervisors, like operations manager, or even the area manager, like even the area manager, may not always tell you about the proper updates with your freight. So if, depending on what route that, that pallet or that cart is going to go to with the door, just make sure that you're following up with, with upper management to make sure that's being held, to that proper standard. So yeah, back to what I was saying about, I guess like the water spidering, or I guess about the scanning for the ship dock. Ship dock is it's a pretty easy department when you basically when you get the job done. But I will say that if you are a scanner, let's just say like handling a department where you're basically at a station and you're scanning with like another person that's at your station, or you're doing it by yourself, the biggest problem that will end up happening to you is that you will end up having the water spider laziness problem. Where, let's just say, if you have a change of freight on your station where basically either management that's like basically supervisory management, such as processing assistants, will end up changing routes on your station of like where things are being scanned at, whether it's a pallet or a cart. And sometimes you're basically out of like, particular water spiders that are not always available to kind of close out like your freight, which, the bad part like about it is that you can't close out like your freight down by yourself, because management doesn't want you to be basically like missing out on productivity, because the productivity is to be like basically your productivity has to be up to date, and you can't, keep that productivity low. I will say, whenever you're scanning on a regular station, let's just say if you're doing a, like a standing lane type of station, you have to make sure that you're scanning up to at least 180 packages per hour. Well, I mean, it's not really like per hour, but just for argument's sake, just make sure that you're hitting 180. Other sites might be a little bit stingy to say like you have to hit like 200 something per hour, but that's like, personally with me, that's like, that's a pretty BS. If you try to go for more, go for more. I mean, it's not really necessary, but it's always best to kind of like basically put yourself to be above other people. And if you don't have any work per se, that's the biggest problem. You have to tell management to go to a different station. And that's why with me personally, I like using like a hand scanner gun, because I don't like having to sign into the computer and then you have to basically scan boxes like every single time. And sometimes, like, that the computer scanners doesn't read like like the packaging labels effectively, so you have to go out of like your way to make sure that you're having to scan like the box correctly, so therefore it can be registered into the system. But the problem about the water spiders is that if the water spiders are not available to close out your containers, and you're having to wait on them for them to close out your containers, you're basically screwed, where you have to kind of go out of like your way telling supervisory management to say, hey, I'm not doing good with like my rate here, because these water spiders are not coming down to close out my containers. So I need somebody to, come down here to close out my my containers. So I will say, like, for any of the stupid people that are watching that are lazy water spiders, that does, hurt you, more like. Oh, hold on. All right, I'm back. So yeah, that hurts you more than it hurts, the person that is actually scanning, because that basically ruins your opportunity to have the privilege of actually working as a water spider. Because the thing about people that do work the water spider position, they just do it in order to be like a lazy piece of shit. So it's like, for the most part, management will cater to some people that don't even need to be doing water spider. They should be doing other positions to get those people fired, so these people can end up actually doing something to be productive. And I just find it to be weird, because it's like, the stupid thing about it is like, water spider is such an easy position, which I personally enjoy it, because if I'm having to move around and close down pallets and carts all day, I am definitely happy of doing that, instead of having to scan and I'm not able to like really do anything. I'm having to sit in one spot versus doing water spider. I could just move around every single day, and like on top of that, like, I'm having to have downtime to talk to people that I can enjoy doing. So yeah, I mean, I personally like that a position. The problem is that a lot of people like to opt in for that position, and dumbass supervisory management will like to be favoritists, like, idiots, to not give you that position. So I will say, if you guys are starting out, for those of you that are working in the ship dock, I will say try to opt in for Water Spider. But if you can't get that, always go to No Reads, because I think No Reads is a way better department. If you're not able to get Water Spider, also go over to the inducting department if you guys really don't enjoy having to scan with somebody else that's sitting on the other side of the scanning rail, because it's really boring and it's really not fun. If you guys want to like have something nice and quick, do the inducting department, because inducting is actually really simple. It's very easy, and all you have to do is just make sure that you scan like your items, through the scanner conveyor belt, and you're basically good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the ship dock. I mean, there's other positions. I was gonna say, I forgot like what the other positions are. Oh, like you could also do transship forklift, which I really wanted to do that position, but that position was never able to be given to me because I don't know like why management wouldn't do it for me because I had former forklift experience with XPO Logistics and management. See, look, the stupid thing like about it is like management has to put you inside like a class for you to get that particular position. So if you're having to kind of like deal with like, the bad fact that you have to wait until there's a class available to get into being a forklift driver, basically you have to wait until it's available, and then yeah, and then you'll be able to kind of get to that position that you want to do for you to be quote unquote trained, which is really stupid. And also, there's like another position that I forgot to say. There's another position called it's called TDR. That's basically like a trailer closeout like associate worker. So what you do with that is that for TDR, you have to make sure that trailers are being opened and closed properly. I will say if you screw up one time doing this particular position, you will get fired. So just a heads up for anybody that's wanting to do that. Be careful. Be careful when you do it. Follow the instructions on the tablet, and if there's something that is to be wrong that you see that isn't having to be matched correctly whenever you're closing or opening up a actual trailer, bring it up with upper management. That's what I will say. But yeah, TDR is actually very simple. Just follow the instructions on your tablet and you'll be able to get everything done pretty quickly. So, basically that's all that you do. You just have to make sure that you're following the safety protocol guidelines of like whenever you're opening up a trailer, and then that'll be good to go. Wait, hold on. Let me pause this video so I can get to like a different video. All right, I'm back. So yeah, basically, like the whole thing is that when you do TDR, you just have to make sure that you do your job, and after that, you'll be good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the ship dock, if I'm not to be mistaken. I think those are all the positions I was able to find. I mean, scanning for the most part is actually pretty okay. I would say do go to a station where you're able to scan with like a hand scanner, and I think what the best position is like when somebody's having to like, take the freight that's coming down, and you're having to kind of like move it to like certain stations. I forgot what that type of position is. I think that's more like an unloader or oh man, I forgot what that's called. But if you guys see somebody like sitting at a station where they're having to like load the freight to you for you to scan it as like a hand scanner, that's a that's a good position for you to do, for you to like get away from like quote unquote making like basically having to scan for rate. So if you guys don't want to deal with having to scan for rate for your productivity, definitely do water spider for either the flats department, for the inducting department over in flats, or do water spider on a regular scanning lane over by the ship dock. Like you'll be given like certain zones for you to cover for ship dock for your area, but that's a very simplistic department to do. And also there's like another position that you can do, but I will say it's a very lazy, crappy position to do. Just to let you guys know, especially during peak season, a lot of people like to be lazy. It's it's unloading carts, and the bad thing about it is that you have to be with a team all day, and they don't like to usually help you out. A lot of people like to be stupid and lazy, and they like to play like their stupid little game of being very ignorant and very stupid on the job. So doing cart team, it's a pretty chill position if you're with like a good group of guys, but I will say it is not fun when you have to work, during peak season, and that's going to cause, a lot of issues, heading into the future. So, if you ever do that, make sure that you are doing your job. But if you are caught being quote unquote lazy with your associates or with coworkers, management will try to find any reason to write you up. I will say to you, management will find any reason to write you up, whether if you're not scanning effectively on time with your productivity rate, they might write you up for anything. Like, let's just say if you come back late from break, they're very big on that. I was gonna say for anybody that likes to be like those stupid idiots that like to come back late from break, do not do that. Uh, yeah, like Amazon upper management will find means to track you down, and the area managers along with operations managers will find excuses to write you up. So that's another big red flag to not do. Also, don't ever talk to anybody at the Amazon facility. There's a lot of high school, adult childish drama where a lot of people, especially in their young 20s, like to talk a lot of smack behind people's back. So, if you guys are ever in a position where you're dealing with like some people that want to gossip, like about you, don't get into it because management will try to find any reason to try to fire you. But if somebody gets fired for being stupid to talk smack about you, you have every right to bring it up to management, and don't be working with people that you don't feel comfortable working with. I've had some people that I truly hate working with at Amazon, but I make sure that I tell management to tell them, do not put me with this person because I don't like working with them and I refuse to work with this particular individual. So, yeah, be sure to exercise your rights to make sure that if you do not want to work with somebody, you make sure that you let it be known to management. Also, another good thing is that, if you have like a disability per se, you could always like basically use that to kind of say like, hey, like, I can't really work per se on these certain circumstances. So they will give you like a pass on certain jobs that you can do. I will say other departments that are very strict, how should I say? Hold on, let me pause. All right, I'm back. So yeah, other departments, like let's just say the picking department. That's a horrible department. Don't go there. The stowing department is terrible. You have to like be super consistent with your rate. You have to like average at least like I forgot. It's like 250 per hour, but they claim to like management claims to say you have to do 350, which is wild. But it's not based off of how many items that you're stowing. You have to basically stow based off of like the size, quantity of your items. But make sure like whenever you're stowing a mix of freight with the size capacity. And if you're doing premium level freight, which is like your purple label freight, make sure that you stow that after you stow like your red label freight. Or if you're doing totes that are coming up to like to your station. So I mean overall like that's a pretty easy department, but I will say if you guys want to beat your numbers and stow, make sure that you're stowing a whole mix of items. Don't just go for one group of items where like let's just say if you're just trying to hit like let's just say 400 items per hour and you're trying to go for pieces of freight that are going to give you 100 pieces per box. No, don't do that because what ends up happening is that your rate expectation will be a lot higher. So that's something that management doesn't ever tell you. Like when you're stowing, it's not about how many items that you're stowing per hour. It's about your quality over quantity. So whenever you're stowing, make sure that you're mixing your size of freight so you're having to average out a lot better throughout the rest of the week. So that's how I was able to kind of keep everything up to date. Also, another thing that management has to do better with like the stowing department, they should have a computer system telling you where's your progress of how you're stowing, like to tell you like if you're making rate or if you're not. So therefore, you don't have to go up to operations management to ask them, hey, am I doing good, in my rate? And like, can you check like my numbers every single day? Because the problem with that is that not everybody within operations management is going to tell you on your rate effectively. So I mean, like, always go to a area manager, operations manager, to help you out with that. I mean, if you see like a really good operations manager that you enjoy working with, make sure that you follow up with him or her to say, hey, can you check like my rate just to make sure that I'm good to go. But what would make it really better is like if Amazon tried to basically improvise a better rate detection system on the computer to let you know, to say this is your rate after 1 hour, or heading into like the next hour. It should give you like a real time, basically numbers, like I guess like a numbers tracking system to tell you where your rate is at. And like every time that you scan, it tells you this is how many items that you're stowing per hour. And then it tells you like, are you in good standing, or you need to stow this amount of items in order to be in the clear per se. I think that's just like a way better thing to do, instead of having to rely off of managers to kind of tell you this is what you need to do. Because I will tell you, like personally for me, the stowing department is like the worst department for you to get written up, along with like the picking department. And then I would say pack is probably, well, I've never been there, but I've heard packing is not that fun. So I'll put packing, like, in that department, because if you're doing pack singles, or if you're doing pack flow, yeah, that's the other department that I was actually thinking like about. Those are like two separate departments, where pack singles, like, you're basically working on single packages to be packed, and you just have to basically pack as fast as possible into making sure that the packages are going through the conveyor belt effectively. And then there's pack flow, where you're packing items into a tote, and then you're sending those items, off to the next department for that particular manner. Um, Another department that I also hear that's a really crappy department is the, oh man, I forgot what it's called. Um, I totally forgot what the hell that department was called, but yeah, like the worst departments ever is the packing department. And that's just purely because I hear a lot of people saying that that department is ass, and it's like a really shitty department with like a lot of bad people that don't choose to work as a team. So it's like water spiders are having to be lazy, and then you're not able to keep up with rate, so therefore management tries to write you up over that when it's not your fault. That's like, that's another thing that I was going to tell you. Like, if you are being unfairly treated, where you're being written up for things that you shouldn't be written up for, bring it up to upper management, and be sure to dispute your rights. That's another thing that not a lot of people do at Amazon. They like to be mentally retarded, and they just think like, well, there's nothing that I can do. But no, there is a lot that you can do to dispute your job. So yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to basically state for anybody having to. All right, yeah, so I'm back. So some other things that I will say about Amazon: there's no interview process for the company. That's the biggest red flag that I don't like out of Amazon. I think it's a really shitty business when it does stuff like that, compared to like other companies. Like if you work for, let's just say, XPO Logistics, and they're trying to hire whoever the hell that they want. I think that's really crappy for them to do that, because that's inviting like bad people. I don't think that's common within every, location, but I've heard, some bad particular reviews where, companies like XPO Logistics are hiring, people that are felons, and somehow they're like, they're able to go back with like the same company, or basically they're able to be hired with like a company knowing that they are a convicted, yeah, a convicted felon, which I think it's really stupid, and that's really wild, and I don't think businesses should be able to do that. um but that's another video for another day. um the one thing I will say, there are a lot of stupid people that will get hired on the job, and knowing that there's no interview process for you to manage a proper candidate pool, then therefore the company just goes out of their way hiring whoever the hell that they want. And then they just play this stupid favoritism game, saying that, oh well, having no interview process is a lot better, because you can just select the better employees that are going to stay, versus the employees that are not going to stay. They're just going to end up getting fired, or they're just going to end up quitting. Which, here's the biggest thing: when you're working for Amazon, you are not going to get your permanent employee spot. You're going to be working as a temporary employee. And I will say, be sure to work at the best times of the year when it's not busy, because that's usually like the better time for you to kind of get your, get your year, well, get like basically get your experience in the, like, in the pool for you to wait for your blue badge, conversion, because the blue badge conversion means that you'll be permanent. But if you do come in during a busy season like peak season, which peak season is probably one of the hardest, seasons out of all seasons. There are other busy periods such as Prime, which Prime personally, I personally don't like Prime because Prime is only busy for like two particular weekends, so you have to basically get yourself prepared and ready for, for Prime. And the problem with that is that you're working like 11-hour shifts. If you're working like 10-hour shift days, and you have to basically show up 1 hour early for you to show up to work. And I find that shit to be really stupid. Like, you shouldn't have to be going through that. Honestly, like, it should be a lot easier for you to come to work and basically work on a flexible time frame. Like, let's just say if you have school, or let's just say, you can't really make it to work because you live far away, so it takes you some time to get to that, like get to the site. There should be accommodations put in place where you're able to get it right away. One thing I will say, human resources is trash. I'm not going to say everybody's a bad person, but the people that work there for human resources, they're very disingenuous and they're very stupid on the job. So they don't listen to you. They just kind of just do their job, and then they just tell you a bunch of general, bullshit answers to questions that you already know. Sometimes you have to kind of bring it to some good upper higher level management to like kind of get a better answer from human resources. So therefore you can kind of like get to that level of you like completing your goals for like what you need done. I will say the biggest problem as a white badge employee is that you don't get basically you don't get holiday pay. That's really dog shit. I think businesses that do that hire you as a temporary employee until you get hired as a permanent employee is really terrible. For you to basically like work your butt off and not get paid for holiday pay as a temporary employee, which I'm going to talk about that because I'm going to talk about my issue with companies hiring temporary employees before they convert them to full time permanents. I think that's just like the most dog shit thing that any business could ever do. But for Amazon per se, you're not having to get the full time holiday pay benefits. With holiday pay, you get time and a half, and you also get the holiday pay for the day. So that basically means that you get overtime for those holiday pay days. So that means that you'll get your basically like your typical well, I think it's like 8 hours, unfortunately, because with Amazon they pay you for the 8 hours. They don't pay you for 10 hours, which is really stupid. I feel like Amazon should pay you the full 10 hours, and then you get time and a half for that. So you'll get like the overtime rate on top of that. But 8 hours plus your time and a half, that's pretty decent, but it's really crappy at the same time. So that's pretty solid when you become a blue badge. But as a white badge employee, you don't get that. You have to basically wait your 90-day period before you're able to be a blue badge. That's not to be definitively. Oh wait, hold on. All right, I'm back. So yeah, that's like that's not to really be definitively distinct to say that you have to work the full 90 days before you become a permanent employee. With Amazon, you actually have to work at least 30 days without getting written up or getting in trouble by upper management, and therefore you'll be eligible to get your blue badge. Basically, that'll make you eligible to get the blue badge status, but then from that point on, you have to wait until you get hired as a blue badge. And I will tell you, during my time for working for Amazon, I had to wait at least, I want to say like 9 months. Yeah, it was actually 9 months or 11 months until I got converted as a blue badge. So I will tell you guys, if you guys are wanting to become permanent employees for Amazon, I would say do not waste your time working for Amazon if they're not going to give you the blue badge like right away. Definitely look for other jobs, and if you're just having to like work for Amazon for now just to make money and that's the only job that you have for now, then work it until you get a better high paying job that will grant you permanent full-time, yeah, full-time employment with benefits and with holiday pay. I'm definitely going to make a video talking about how to negotiate better when you're looking for full-time jobs, because not a lot of people do that, and especially in the US, there's a lot of idiots that don't think properly whenever they're having to, look for full-time opportunities. But yeah, let me talk about what I need to finish up with Amazon. So that's the biggest, basically, that's the biggest loss with basically working for Amazon. You don't have the ability to kind of expand your, your your employment opportunities with the company, because you have to wait until you get converted on as a permanent employee. And if anything, if there's no business need for them to convert you, which that's the biggest problem. When you get converted as a blue badge, they're gonna send you to a different department most likely, based on the business need, or they will keep you in the in the department that you were technically assigned to. So when you start out with Amazon, it's usually going to be like you going to a department that needs help, and that's going to usually be like a department like, well, 9 times out of 10, if they send you to ShipDoc, that's going to probably be like our best bet to stay there. But the problem that I have with that is that management, if they're being stupid having to bring a bunch of idiots that are going to be stupid on the job to ShipDoc, they might as well just bring people to where the to where the work is actually needed. So that should be departments like Stow or the picking department or any other department that needs help. So I will say, if you are if you are working for Amazon, don't be surprised with the department that they send you to, because if they send you to a crappy department like Stow or Pick, best believe a lot of people will quit, and a lot of people do that. But if you're having to trust the process and actually bring yourself to like a better degree of being successful, then you will get to a better level, to where like you need to be. So yeah, that's that's like the only downside. For Amazon, you're not able to choose your own department and actually like have a preference of like where you want to work. At least the good thing is that you can choose like your own schedule, which is actually really good. But the problem with that is that you're not able to kind of like determine like your overtime hours, because that's the biggest problem. And as I had particularly stated, you have to dispute that out with human resources for them to kind of like give you like accommodations for that, which is really stupid, honestly. So I think human resources should be a lot better for that, where they can accommodate you for you to like actually come in, a lot later, and then you can actually like finish your hours for overtime a lot better. So I just find that to just be more cost effective, and a lot better for people to have better sleeping schedules to kind of like go into work and actually do what they need to do. So yeah, honestly, that's pretty much it for that. I will say another key factor that's not always like the best for working for Amazon is, I guess, like the language barrier of the company. There are a lot of really bad immigrants that Amazon will push to employ for diversity, and I don't like to always talk about this because people like to be like politically, I guess like politically triggered of like hearing, what I would say, along with other people that have like the same, basically like the same concerns. If you're working with like a lot of immigrants that choose not to speak English, and you're living in a state like, let's just say, Florida, and a lot of people choose to speak a language like, let's just say, Spanish, and these people that are coming in don't have the intention to learn how to speak English and learn how to promote safety on the job or to communicate safety on the job, then that's what's going to cause a major accident one day where somebody's going to get hurt, and then they'll probably, risk, their life getting hurt on the job. So that's the biggest flaw that I hate with Amazon. If they're hiring anybody that they want, the language barrier becomes a problem because they're bringing in people that should not be working on the job if they don't know how to speak English. And I think it's really disingenuous if they do that. And granted, even though I am an American, I'm going to be honest and say that English should be a common language to use within all companies. And per se, it, like, in terms of what the U.S. with, like, with the general consensus of using English, most Americans speak English, and nobody's not going to go out of their way speaking Spanish or French or any other language, especially at a high level job that's going to require thinking and having to plan things out, and you have to use physical labor, especially with a job that that involves a lot of safety guidelines to follow, like Amazon. So that's my biggest issue with Amazon. They're hiring a lot of idiots on the job that don't choose to speak English, and the company needs to start enforcing policies to have people speak English on the job, because a lot of people choose to, well, for people that do speak English, on a day-to-day basis, they're not going to go out of their way learning another language if the immigrants that they're hiring, especially most of them that are, I would say they're green card immigrants, because they're not really, like, American citizens. So it's like, if they're just hiring those people because, they're getting like an immigration sponsorship for them to get their citizenship, which is really weird, because I don't know why Amazon is doing that, because those people, they're coming over from another country and they're living without their family to find work, then I don't think Amazon should even be supporting that, because that's like, one, like, they could give that job to somebody that actually needs it, in America, that is a American citizen. And two, why should anybody give that to a immigrant when the immigrant does not have the opportunities to even be set in America, when it's not even like, their, like, their privilege to actually even get like a job, like, yeah, to get a job like Amazon. So no, I think Amazon should be designated for American work and American employees to work to get the job first, and then if immigrants do come in, they have to speak English. Working for Amazon, because Amazon is a big company that focuses on using the English language to kind of promote their products and to share their products. So it's like, in terms of workplace safety and workplace communication, English should be a mandatory, yeah, it should be a mandatory language, and there should be a English taking, like, assessment that Amazon actually used to do, which was called the EA, yeah, it was called the ECT exam, which basically, that challenges, well, that tests people's knowledge on how to speak English and how to operate on, like, on the job. So that actually holds people to be, like, accountable to, like know how to use, like, the English language to communicate with people on the job. So if Amazon did something like that, that would actually get rid of a lot of, like, the bad immigrants that come over to Amazon, and then those people will end up getting fired or just getting, like, laid off. So I think it's a really better way to do that, to get rid of those people, and then, therefore, it actually promotes, like, a better workplace, like, workplace, like, base, yeah, a workplace chemistry roster. So yeah, that's pretty much like my whole take on that. I think Amazon is a pretty decent company. You will make some good friends, but I will say there are a lot of bad people that come to the job that do a lot of stupid crap. Peak season is definitely the worst season to deal with. Working 11-hour shifts, but the pay is actually pretty good when you get that overtime. So when you're working that extra hour every day, you will hit, I want to say, at least 55 hours. So that's pretty good within a, well, yeah, that's within like a weekly period. So it's actually not bad. Because, depending on how you get paid. Hold on. All right, I'm back. So yeah, depending on how you get paid, usually most Amazon facilities usually pay you weekly. Some other facilities can pay you biweekly. I know for my Amazon facility, I got paid weekly. So it's not like personally with me, it's not bad. I actually prefer getting paid weekly versus bi-weekly because I think bi-weekly is just garbage. So that's just my honest opinion for that. So yeah, that's that's just my personal preference for that particular manner. But yeah, for the most part, I will say when you're working for the company, just make sure that you do your job. Always ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And if you got some really crappy employees that you don't like working with, bring that up with a Amazon area manager. That's your main boss, supervisor. Make sure that you're keeping up to date with your rate, depending on if you're at a station where you're having a scan, because management will get you on that to try to write you up. But the write up system is actually really terrible, and I don't like it, and I think it's garbage, and I think it's a very Orwellian system that they have. Oh, also for attendance, there is a UPT point system that they use for you to basically gather unpaid time, which is actually really good, but it's really bad at the same time. So it's a double-edged sword when you do it. The UPT system is basically a system where you basically accrue unpaid time every time that you work for Amazon. So during peak season, you'll accrue at least up to, I want to say it's at least 55 minutes per day for peak season, and then for non-peak season, you'll get up to you'll get up to 50 minutes every day. So it's actually pretty good. I actually think it's really good. But the problem with it is that you have to make sure that basically you have to make sure that your UPT is not going negative, because if you go negative, then you will get fired. Basically, the company will fire you because you actually didn't show up to work for X amount of time. So therefore, if you go negative, that's going to cause you to basically get fired, and there's no questions asked. Management won't have to work that out. Basically, management won't have to give a particular explanation of why they fired you. But if you actually did something stupid on the job and you got fired and your UPT was never to be affected, then they will just fire you. So basically, that's also a big thing. If you're ever having to take time off, and let's just say if you don't have a lot of UPT, or let's just say PTO, that's also accrued while you're a white badge or a blue badge. But the problem with being a white badge is that you don't get vacation time, but as a blue badge, you actually do get vacation time. So that's that's the biggest problem out of that. But I will say for the UPT situation, if you don't have enough UPT to cover your time, sometimes your site may offer a thing that's called VTO, which is called voluntary time off, which I personally don't like it. But but the thing about that is that if you accept VTO, you'll actually get, if I'm not to be mistaken, I think you do get UPT gained out of that. But if you use your PTO to leave for the day early, you could actually get UPT out of that. But the thing is if you worked a half day, you'll only get partial out of it. But if you do work the full day, and let's just say you have PTO to cover it, I think you'll get UPT for the whole shift. But still, you still have to be a little bit careful with that, because sometimes it's not always effective. But VTO is actually pretty decent to say the least. I do know that some sites are actually offering a month long VTO. So some Amazon sites are actually giving people the ability to use how should I say they're giving people the ability to use as much as much VTO that's being offered. So there's certain instances where you can take VTO for a whole month with certain sites. It's not within every single site, but that's pretty crazy. And then I do know that other sites are also offering 1 week of VTO or 2 weeks of VTO or at least 3 weeks of a VTO. So I mean that's really insane. But it's like if you actually have like another secondary means of income, you don't have to really be working for Amazon like that. If you make like a lot of money and like you're kind of just working for Amazon to kind of like get like to get like a certain amount of wealth to be produced, it's actually pretty good. If you work a good job, on top of working with Amazon, you don't have to work for Amazon like that. Let's just say if you work a good remote job, where like let's just say if you work on the weekend or something like that, that's always a good opportunity for you to kind of like get yourself to where like you need to be, and that'll always help you out to like where to where like if you just want to take time off and just rest up and not to be mentally stressed out, like basically the VTO is a good like is a good means for you to take time off, and if you have like secondary income to make money off of that, that'll further like assist you with that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Amazon. I will say sorry for the long video, but I wanted to kind of get like my thoughts out there and just explain that Amazon, it's a good company. Well, it's a decent company, but it's not always like the best, company per se. So, I mean, it's always decent, but it's not always to be like the best company. So, if you guys want to work a good business, I would definitely work for a company that's going to particularly respect you, and if anything, go for a remote, like go for remote positions that can pay you decent money, or work for like a business, especially like a clerical position where if they pay you like a good solid 18 to 20 bucks per hour and you're starting out from like high school trying to get like a clerical job, do something like that. There's plenty of opportunities of that particular manner. Wait, hold on. Let me pause the video. All right, I'm back. So yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I'm gonna probably make another video talking about something else, but I just wanted to kind of give like my whole take on this and explain my whole, my whole, my whole philosophical thoughts with Amazon. The company is decent if you actually have a good future, wanting to expand long term. I will say, Amazon does offer career choice if you guys want to expand to other careers. Um, I think career choice can be used more than once. Basically, how it works is that they have like certain programs that you can get into. Let's just say if you want to get into IT or you want to get into being like a truck driver or anything like that, they offer like a tuition, provided based program where I think it's every year they give you like X amount of tuition for career choice, and then you could use it for basically whatever that you want. Personally, with me, I actually wanted to use it for the cybersecurity thing, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the program that I wanted to do. And the downside to it is actually you actually have to work for the company, and you have to like basically complete the program in full. And once you do that, then you'll be good to go. But also make sure that you're also being obligated to complete your program, effectively. So therefore, you're actually not putting yourself in a position where that will, you know, that'll hinder you into the future. So make sure that you do your job correctly. Don't get fired. But I think if anything, if you complete your career choice in full and you get everything to be completed with your education, that's going to help you. But I know that if you're able to use it more than once, every single year with the fixed amount of tuition that they give you, that's a really good deal to do. So definitely take advantage of it. Um, there's other perks that the company offers. I know that they have like groups that you can do. That's always effective if you want to do like affinity groups. But I don't really care for that. I mean, I actually wanted to start my own gaming club group, but I just ended up not wanting to do it because it's like I was about to move anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Let me know what y'all think. If you guys work for Amazon, don't work for that company forever. Look for greater opportunities, and best believe you will get to where you need to be. You don't need to do it with Amazon. Take advantage of career choice, so therefore you can get to that level to where to where you need to be. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about Amazon, and I will see you guys later. Sorry for this long video. I wanted to get this off my chest, and I hope you guys I hope you guys like enjoyed it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys later. Peace and goodbye.